Drivers, start your engines!
This is MRN Motorsports Monday, presented by Outback Steakhouse and Hercules Tires. One full hour of news, interviews, and opinion about the past weekend's racing action.
Pace car is up.
Now here are your hosts, Woody Kane and Joey Mike.
Green flag, green flag.
Welcome to Motorsports Monday. We didn't have a race yesterday, but Joey and I, Two-Spotter, are still here to talk about what we've got coming up and what we've seen to this point of the season. We've got a big show coming up for you today. No race to review, as we said, and an off weekend for Easter. Martinsville Speedway coming up, and that makes it STP week because it's the STP 500, Joey. And did you know that you can get ultra performance with STP Ultra 5-in-1 fuel system cleaner? STP in for the long haul.
I didn't prepare you for this. What's STP stand for?
I did used to know this. I did look this up.
Special Treatment Petroleum.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
All right.
And
see, you learned something new right away.
And here's some more. Here's some more deep trivia. You know, Rich Culbreth, another one of our producers.
Okay.
You know their old theme song that they used to have, the Racer's Edge.
Yep.
He thought it was the Razor's Edge.
Racers. Scientific Treatment Petroleum is what I meant to say.
Go.
Thanks.
Cool. All right.
But,
Bonus points.
You've learned something new.
Yeah.
So Kyle didn't win the Xfinity race.
He did not.
And people aren't mad, crazy, because they're ruining the series?
Nope.
How come? Oh, we didn't have any races this
That's
weekend.
right. Well, we didn't have any of the National Touring
That's
Series.
right.
K&N ran at Greensville
Man,
Pickens.
that's awesome, yeah.
You can hear more about that on Coast to Coast coming up later.
Todd Braun's nephew won that race.
How about that?
Yeah, it's pretty good. His first race in the K&N
deal.
series. Yep.
Big show coming up for all you folks today here on Motorsports Monday. There you see the Outback Steakhouse menu. They're a proud sponsor here of Motorsports Monday. And you know what? That gives me an idea because it is the lunch hour. You should head on over to Outback. And, you know, I know you're a big fan of the Joey menu.
The Joey menu.
Yeah, which is really a kid's menu, but they let you order off of it. You can mix and match stuff. It's pretty cool.
It's all little items.
Yeah. Are you okay? I'm not even going to go there. But check it out. And by the way, I don't know if you knew this or not, but they're about to put an Outback in over by Concord Mills.
Very nice. That's right around the corner from us here in the Charlotte Concord studio of Motor Racing Network.
So there you go. Big show coming up there. You see what we've got. Daniel Hemric, second in the Truck Series standings. They are back in action after what seems like forever, headed to Martinsville Speedway this coming Saturday. We'll have that for you here on Motor Racing Network. And at 12:25, Paul Wolfe, the crew chief for Brad Keselowski. They won at Las Vegas. Good start to the season for them. It'll be interesting to pick his brain after the first 5 races of the season to get a feel for where things stand from a team and competitor standpoint.
You know, I think you get happy early in the season when you compete well, when you're very competitive. Both Daniel Hemric with Chad Hendrick and Paul Wolfe with Brad have done really well early in the season. But I think you can never be satisfied. You know, a lot of us are driven, and we've talked in the past, essentially like a Kyle Busch mentality, where the losing is what drives you. It's not winning. It's the anger, the pain of suffering, of the agony of defeat that we all grew up with drives you to get better. Fortunately for both the 2 Cup team and the 19 truck team, we've done really well. Second in points in the truck, top 10 in points with a win in Vegas. But that's not what's driving these guys. And it's interesting to get in Paul's head later on and Daniel's head later on. He's hopping in a truck that sat on the pole and won the race for Martinsville coming up. So his job seems easy.
It seems that way, yeah,
right?
but things don't always happen the way.
Exactly.
Look at the way the NCAA tournament is going with all these low seeds having big upsets with half-court shots and whatnot.
There's only one seed left, right?
That's exactly right.
And who would that be?
That would be North Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I'm fortunate in this state because I'm not a transplant. You know, I mean, I am a transplant. I didn't grow up diehard. So I am initially a Duke fan with Coach Krzyzewski, but because I'm a transplant, I can still cheer for UNC and it be acceptable. So I'm happy from a North Carolina standpoint, being in the state, that we're still represented in the tournament.
There you go. And one ACC team will be in the championship game regardless of what happens on Saturday.
And the good thing about having a UNC rivalry is the Duke people watch the UNC game to see if they lose.
Yeah, absolutely.
so it's a win-win situation.
No denying that at
That's
all
exactly
along
right.
the way.
That's it.
But let's step back for a moment here. We mentioned the first 5 races of the season in the books, all the talk about the low downforce package that we've seen so far, pretty much universal praise for this package and the softer tire that Goodyear has brought. I know you're going to talk a little bit more about Goodyear later when we get to our on-track, off-track segment where we talk about some things that we think are going well and some things that maybe aren't going so well. But to this point of the season, I think everybody feels like at the very least we're on the right track.
We have set records for the closeness of finishes between first and second throughout the first 5 races.
2 photo finishes.
Two
already.
of them, and when we say photo finishes, they're microscopic. You measure them with less than a yardstick across the start-finish line. The distances have been in inches.
Yeah.
Okay, we measure things by a clock, but on a stick it's been inches. Okay, we can't complain about that. But not only is it first and second that's racing, but it's 10th and 11th are racing. It's 15th and 16th. Those guys aren't stuck in the middle of a pack and can't move. And that's what this low downforce package has brought to the system. That's what Goodyear has been working on to give the guys a good grip for a tire that wears out. And so we've seen just more than first and second racing, which has been fantastic. But it's the guys that are back in 5th, 6th, and 7th that they're still able to race their guts out. They're not stuck in those holes that we saw in years past where I might be faster than you, but you're in front of me and you're taking my air away and I can't get by.
2 things jump out at me there. One is what you just mentioned. I've heard a lot of drivers describe this as now with this package, it's not like you're driving through or have to drive through a wall of air when you're pulling up behind somebody with a faster car. Now you can get up to him, loosen him up, and drive on by. So that's something that's a plus. We're seeing more of that. But the other thing I wanted to get you to comment on is, in spite of those photo finishes that we mentioned, we've seen some criticism, and we know we're always going to see it no matter what happens, from people who say, the races weren't that great until the end. Well, isn't the end the best part?
When we watch a Boston Marathon or we watch a 24-hour race at Daytona, very rarely do we critique the 12-mile mark of the Boston Marathon or the 12-hour mark of the 24 hours of the Rolex there at Daytona. The entire race is a strategy. It's a setup towards the end of the race because you can win. I've won plenty of halfway breaks. Okay, it didn't show. You can't find it in the rule book. We had a hellacious race with Shane Meal and Brian Vickers at IRP. We led the halfway point.
What'd you get for that?
You can't find it.
You got a trophy for that?
Nope, no trophies.
Wow.
So my point is that these races aren't sprints. They take a long time to set up. Strategy, penalties. We saw Brad Keselowski a couple weeks ago win Vegas after getting a penalty. So if you're watching this race in the middle of the race and you're a huge Brad Keselowski fan, man, he's running 25th. What's wrong with Brad?
Right.
You turn the TV off, you come back, and he won the race. Well, how'd that happen?
Right.
We had to watch the whole race for it to play out.
Well, look at Auto Club Speedway, for example. You saw Kevin Harvick be pretty dominant through that race with a long-run car. And the quote that I keep going back to that keeps sticking with me that Kevin said is, it's not about who's fastest. It's about who can run fast the longest. And so they've been setting up for long runs with some great success. This time it didn't quite work out because they had a late caution, a green-white checker finish. Jimmy Johnson then jumps up and gets the win because he had a faster car on short runs.
Yeah, the only way you can get to a green-white checker 2-lap dash or even an overtime is to run the first part of the race.
Yeah.
You can't start the race in overtime. You can't get to halfway in overtime.
Right.
You can't get the Super Bowl, the Major League Baseball, any sport you want to play. You can't have a buzzer beater without the clock going the full periods.
You can't just start right there?
Right.
So not much of a game, but yeah.
Right, but you can't have the end until you have the beginning and the middle, and that's what we're seeing in these NASCAR. These crew chiefs work the entire race, and I think some of the fans are unaware of how much strategy and what's going on behind the scenes that go on the entire race. And we get Paul Wolfe on later on in our second segment right around 12:25. We're going to ask him, what exactly are you doing when your spotter's up there talking for 2.5 hours? Are you just sitting there
saying, I wish that guy would
shut up?
Yeah.
That's it, yeah, exactly. But we'll ask him.
Yeah.
That'll be a good question, and he can fill us in on how much strategy goes on behind the scenes.
Absolutely. All right, as we said, we're headed back to Martinsville Speedway this weekend for the STP 500. It is STP week here across MRN. All of our programming will be brought to you by STP, so keep an eye on that through the week. We'll tell you about some other things coming up during the week that you can pick up on here on MRN a little bit later on in our program. But up next, we'll have Daniel Hemric. The Truck Series comes back to action, the Camping World Truck Series, after a long hiatus. As we go to break, however, here's what it sounded like last year at Martinsville in the STP 500.
2 to go now as they work off turn number 4. Nose to tail for the race lead at Martinsville. Denny Hamlin, the first one back in turn number 1. Brad Keselowski looking high on Denny.
1 mile to go to decide it at Martinsville. Hamlin down the back straightaway. Keselowski to the outside into turn 3. He puts a wheel up, but he can't make it stick.
Denny leads off turn number 4. Here's Brad again as the white flag flies. Brad tries to draw even. He's there, moving up alongside nearly in turn 1.
Trying to pin Hamlin behind the lap machine as they come off turn number 2. Down the back straightaway for the final time. Hamlin to the bottom. Here comes Keselowski to the outside. Checkered flag, ready to fly.
Denny Hamlin off turn number 4. Keselowski gets into him. Hamlin saves it, and across the line comes Denny Hamlin. He will win this afternoon for the 5th time in his career at the Martinsville Speedway.
This is MRN Motorsports Monday.
I'm Steve Letarte for STP. As a former crew chief, I know about winning and what it takes to keep your engine performing at its best. That's why I recommend STP Ultra 5-in-1 Fuel System Cleaner. STP Ultra 5-in-1 Fuel System Cleaner is STP's most advanced fuel additive. It's been formulated to help remove harmful deposits from intake valves and restore fuel injector performance. For more than 60 years, STP products have proven themselves mile after mile. Take it from me, if you want to go with a winner, go with STP. In for the long haul.
In the Outback, we think the best part about racing is the noise, the engine, the pits, and a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. Especially a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. That's because if Kevin Happy Harvick, driver of the number 4 Chevrolet, places in the top 10 in today's race, there's free bloomin' onions this Monday. So you'll have a happy bloomin' Monday. Only at Outback Steakhouse. Valid with any purchase. One per table. Participation may vary. Registered trademarks used with permission.
Ready to take the training wheels off your race scanner? Go to fanvision.com and upgrade your experience with FanVision. Not only will you be able to hear the race,
Dale Earnhardt Jr. gets a good run, drafting help from Kyle Busch, and Kevin Harvick Jr. again pulls up alongside for the race lead.
you'll see every moment through live video, instant replays, live stats, and more.
Hi, I'm Jamie McMurray, driver of the #1 Cessna Chevrolet, and I never go to the track without my FanVision. So go to fanvision.com to rent or buy yours today.
Hi, this is Carl Edwards. You're listening to MRN Motorsports Monday with Joey Meyer and Woody Kane.
Hemric gets a huge shove from Austin Dillon up that inside line, and he's going to take the lead in turn number 2. Dillon will follow him through for second. Here comes Timothy Peters to the inside of Crafton for third.
Crafton tries to fight back along the outside lane, but he checks to his left. There's Timothy Peters once again, stubborn along the inside lane, and further ahead, Austin Dillon drops out of line from second, takes a peek to the inside of Daniel Hemric.
Hemric trying to lead the first lap of his
Trouble
career.
in turn number 4. One truck kicks around. It's Ray Black Jr. His red, white, and blue machine slides up to the top of the 18-degree banking. That Chevrolet just grazing the outside wall.
That's what it sounded like last year at Michigan. Daniel Hemric won the pole, but he's with a different team in 2016. Brad Keselowski Racing. He's coming off a 4th-place finish in the California Clean Power Ford F-150 at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. It seems like eons ago. It really wasn't, but Daniel Hemric joins us on the guest line now. Daniel, congratulations to the strong start for your season. Saw you were up at Martinsville Speedway last week, kind of barnstorming for that race. How eager are you to get back behind the wheel?
My gosh, this felt like it's been forever, hasn't it? So
yeah.
It's been a good start to the season, but, man, you take all that time off and then try to figure out what to do with your life and you know, how to pass the time. So it was good to be able to go up to Martinsville last week for Media Day and help promote the Camp World Truck Series, and hopefully we can get up there and have a good showing. I know all my guys and everybody at the shop, everybody's working for one goal, and that's to figure out a way to go and win races, and excited to have another shot at it this coming weekend.
You know, later on in the show and our on-off track with Woody's going to talk about a little scheduling snafu with the Truck Series that I think you would agree with. But we've run 2 races with completely different tracks in the first 3. We go to Daytona, Atlanta, and then Martinsville. But you have run 2 races, sitting second in points. Does it excite you early on, or does it make you nervous, or you just kind of blow it out because we've only run 2 races?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's cool for, keeping everybody motivated at the shop. But at the end of the day, it's kind of irrelevant at the time, especially with our new format and everything that's been implemented in 2016. So, like I said, it's all fine and good. But like I said, our goal is to win races and put ourselves in a position to contend for a championship. And in order to do that, we gotta run solid week in and week out, and all that other stuff take care of itself.
So I know you guys love to be busy, love to be behind the wheel as much as humanly possible. When you hit a spell like this, what do you do to keep yourself busy, keep yourself from going nuts?
Well, at this point in my life, I have a lot going on. To be honest with you, it's my fiance and I got engaged last year. Our wedding's this coming January, so we had a little bit of time to do some wedding planning. And she's also got a super late model ride, actually for a team I used to race for out of Georgia.
Yeah, I saw
super
that.
Late model rank. So,
congratulations to Kenzie. That's cool.
I appreciate it. That's a pretty cool deal for her. So, we've stayed busy, kind of helping them prepare their cars, and she ran in South Alabama about 2 weeks ago, and they have another race coming up the week after we run Martinsville. So there's plenty of stuff to keep myself and her busy, and we've enjoyed our time. But there's only so much you can do to keep your mind off of what your job is. I'm ready to go back to work.
Yeah. All right. Well, fun's over. Wedding planning will continue on in the background, but now we have to go to Martinsville. And one of the things you can look back on is you've been there, I believe, at least 3 times in the Truck Series. Last year, you ran twice, finishing 12th both times, I gather. What did you need extra, and what are you and Chad talking about making something better to work Martinsville? Because you're hopping in a truck that not only sat on the pole but also won the race.
Yeah, so no pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no pressure, right? No, I'll tell you what, I've never been so excited to get to Martinsville. Obviously, I was able to make my series debut there a couple years ago, and it's always struggled to keep the longevity and keep the tires under it with what I've drove there in the past. So I know Chad and everybody at Brad Keselowski Racing has really good baseline on what we can do to help our Ford F-150. And we've looked at the weather, and obviously, I'm not sure anybody's talked about it yet over the last day or two, but the weather don't look great. So we may have to fall back on those notes, and that's something we're 100% prepared to do. I know I got all the faith in the world in all my guys, and I know they feel the same way. So worst case, we'll unload what they had all the success with, spring of last year and go to work.
Now, give us an idea. I know you don't want to start down the road of rain. Usually when Joey shows up, everything's fine. It's all about the fog when he shows up, and that kind of holds true in here as well. But the relationship so far between you and Chad, you and the team, you and your spotter, to get things right here, jumping into a new team. You've got some experience behind the wheel of the truck and at Martinsville, as Joey mentioned, but I think people underestimate how important chemistry is, don't you?
Oh, 100%. I think that's a key factor in why we've had the success we've had, early on this year. Everybody pulls in the same direction, and that's over half the battle is getting everybody going in the right direction, not the right direction, but pulling the same direction constantly. And like I said, I couldn't be more proud of everybody at our shop and for the effort they put forth. And it makes you want to be better and go the extra mile every day when you're not at the racetrack. And it's made me better as a person and a racer, and just ready to get to a stretch where we can actually implement, all of our strong suits, and we can all work together week after week. That's what I'm going crazy trying to figure out what to do with the time in between. But I'm just ready to get back to the racetrack and show everybody how strong of an organization Brad Keselowski Racing is, and how we can be a threat week in and week out.
Yeah, not only do you have a new crew chief and a new spotter that docks to you on the roof, but you also have a new teammate with Tyler Reddick and his crew chief, Doug Randolph, and that entire 29 team. Is there a relationship that's being formed with over there? We've had some drivers on that those guys hang out together, and there's some that they compete together. Where do you and Tyler stand?
Yeah, Tyler and I, we see each other a couple of days a week at the shop, so we're always communicating. And I think we went and watched a movie or two over the last couple of weeks. His girlfriend, my fiance, and I, and so we definitely spent some time just away from racing. And I think it's going to be a key role, maybe not as early as it is now, but when we get into the real, the depth of the season, and you're racing week after week and you're around those guys more and more, it's going to be key to have a solid relationship and really be able to lean on those guys. And, I've told many people that Tyler and I, we come from such totally different backgrounds, but, at the end of the day, everybody under the roof of our shop, we have the same goal, and that's winning races and performing. And no matter where you come from or how you get there, it's a matter of pulling together once you get that shot. And I think Tyler and I have been able to work together really well. And, and that's something I'm sure Joey can attest to as well, is that everybody does, and they legitimately are there for the same goal, and it's just one big team. And, that's all you can ask for in a situation like mine, is to have everybody work together like they do. And that chemistry between, Doug Randolph and Tyler, it's obviously great, and they've been together for a while. And Chad and I have constantly built on our relationship day after day as well. So I think we're all making strides and going in the right direction. We just got to keep going.
Okay, so back up for just a second, folks. We're talking to Daniel Hemric here, who's driving for Brad Keselowski Racing, second in the points to start the season. But the movie thing, did you guys go see Batman versus Superman? Did you let the girls pick? How'd that work out?
We let the girls pick. It was one of the book series, Divergent, I believe is the name of it. And it got a little crazy for me. I kind of lost track of where I was at. Maybe didn't think about racing too much, but we get to see a lot of good movies as they come out, and that's kind of Kinsey and my thing as well. Whenever we're not racing, you want to pass a couple of hours, we'll find ourselves at the movie, eat some popcorn. But there's only so much of that you can do, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, at the airlines, when you get hired on, you become a new pilot or even a new captain. They put you with an experienced pilot to fly around and do what they call initial operating experience. You're now in your second full year in the Truck Series, being last year was your first. Do you show up at these racetracks now a little more confident, or do you still show up and go, what don't I know? Where's the bathroom at? Something simple. When you go to a racetrack, do you have a goal in mind because you've been there again and you can learn a little more?
Oh yeah, guaranteed. I mean, there's obviously those things you experience for the first time that's only the first time. Whether it's getting out of the pit road for the first time, or learning where the bathrooms are, the odd and end stuff. But I'm constantly trying to revisit those tracks before we get there that given weekend and try to figure out, okay, once we got through practice, what do we struggle with? Where do I need to be better? What did I fight? And try to really look at that stuff and try to own in on what needed to be better. And I think that's something like I said with Brad Keselowski Racing being together for so long, that they have such solid notebooks everywhere we go that all of us together, we can really start off with a really solid baseline. And so when you get there, you just try to be better than you were there the last time. That's all you can ask for.
Daniel, when we talk with guys in the Xfinity Series or the Truck Series, we always like to ask them, for example, we mentioned Joey Logano won this race a year ago. I saw where Kyle Busch has entered to run the Martinsville race with you guys on Saturday. Are you a guy who wants to race those top Cup guys, or do you feel like they're stealing your thunder?
Oh, I 100% want to race those guys. Those, 40 are some of the best drivers that line up on Sundays. Anytime you got an opportunity to race against them, it's an opportunity to get better. It's an opportunity to make a name for yourself. So, you make a name of your sport by beating those guys and bettering yourself on any given day and making the most of those opportunities. So, if they're in the race and you got the opportunity to go head to head with a guy like Kyle or Joey or Brad or whoever it is that given day, that's an opportunity to do that. And if you play your cards right, it could be a game changer, or it could be something that hurts you. So you got to be mindful of all that stuff that's going on and make the most of it.
I find myself on the roof as a pilot spotter. I'm kind of a minority. You are in a minority situation with your fiance also being a professional stock car driver. Do you guys compete against each other? And if so, how does that work?
Well, we've competed against each other a good bit, the last couple of years, and not as much here in the last year or so, but we definitely experienced that. And now we've kind of both gone two different directions as far as racing goes. But she's my biggest fan, supporter when she comes to the racetrack, and I try to play a little bit of the crew chief role and spotter or whatever she calls upon me to be that given weekend at her short track racing. So it can be intense. It's got its ups and its downs, just like everything else. It's tough enough, the emotion you experience with just your guys at the racetrack, let alone doing it for someone that holds such a special place to you. And you got to really kind of I guess you say tread thin water. That way you make sure you're not on the couch at night. But it makes for a fun aspect of our relationship. It's something that's made us better as a whole. And it's exciting, man. You go to the racetrack, 1 week together, and you don't know what it holds and how each other's gonna approach the given weekend. And we both learned a lot about each other through racing together and really growing up doing it together.
Will you get a chance to see her perform in the super late model you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, actually, I was part of her deal when she raced in South Alabama a couple weeks ago, and with our break we get after Martinsville until Kansas, she runs Nashville Fairgrounds, so I'll get to go there and be pretty hands-on and help her, and just try to give assistance where needed. And hopefully, I actually won in that car there last year, so hopefully we can go do the same with her.
That's fantastic. Hey, Daniel, who's going to be on the truck with you this week? I know you had California Clean Power at Atlanta.
Yep, yeah, we have California Clean Power back with us. For obviously Atlanta, and then here at Martinsville. Kansas, we may be revamping the scheme a little bit. I know everybody's a big fan of it, so we may make some small changes and try to keep everybody just as interested in that paint scheme. And then won't be but a couple more races, and we'll have Draw Titan Reese Brands back on board with us. And that partnership's so cool to have them part of Brad Keselowski Racing and how much they do for us. So it takes the whole deal to make it go around. So we're excited to give these guys, every one of them, a good show.
Absolutely. Fantastic. The Bills keep getting paid. Well, listen, congratulations on a strong start to the season. Your engagement and Kenzie's back behind the wheel. Everything's headed in the right direction. Look forward to catching up with you at Martinsville this weekend.
Absolutely, guys. I appreciate you having me on. We'll see you soon.
Be easy on. Take care on your spotter. Be easy.
Okay.
Hey, I'll try, buddy.
Yeah, light him up for me, please. Do that. Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate your time, man. There you go. The driver, the number 19 California Clean Power Ford F-150, second in the standings right now.
Yeah, one of the things he mentioned is he's a new guy at his team, but he's not a rookie, and there's still a lot of building going on between him and his crew chief, his spotter, and his teammates. Fortunately for them, both teams are running good, and we go to Martinsville with a good notebook.
All right, next we will talk some Sprint Cup racing. The STP 500 comes up at Martinsville Speedway this coming weekend. We'll pick the brain of Paul Wolfe, who's Brad Keselowski's crew chief. They've already got one win in the bag. We'll do that next. But first, as we go to break here on the way out, give you an idea of what things sounded like in the truck race at Martinsville 1 year ago.
Waiting for the green to go in the air. It does. On the break, Matt Crafton diving down to the inside. On the start, Joey Logano. They're 3 wide.
3 wide and leaning hard on each other. Logano through on the inside, regains the lead. Crafton is second. Jones is third. Johnny Sauter fourth. Joey Logano with a tremendous restart will show the way to the start finish.
Joey across the line. The white flag is out. 4 truck links in front of Matt Crafton. Can Crafton chase him down and retaliate?
Off turn number 2, it's going to take a miracle for Crafton to get back to him now. Down the back straightaway, into 3. 2 truck lengths, the lead. Here comes Joey Logano, headed for home.
Making just his 7th start in the series, Joey Logano across the line, and he will score his first ever NASCAR Camping World Truck Series win. It comes this afternoon at the Martinsville Speedway with an amazing pass going into turn number 1.
This is MRN Motorsports Monday.
In the Outback, we think the best part about racing is the noise, the engine, the pits, and a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. Especially a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. That's because if Kevin Happy Harvick, driver of the number 4 Chevrolet, places in the top 10 in today's race, there's free bloomin' onions this Monday. So you'll have a happy bloomin' Monday. Only at Outback Steakhouse. Valid with any purchase. 1 per table. Participation may vary. Registered trademarks used with permission.
Business is a lot like racing. It takes a strong team of pros to succeed. That's why Freightliner Trucks created TeamRunSmart.com, a free online community that connects owner-operators with the trucking industry's A-team. The Team Run Smart pros and coaches help maximize your profitability with real-world advice on everything from fuel-efficient specking to healthy eating to filing taxes. Sign up today to earn rewards and connect with fellow truckers at TeamRunSmart.com.
Don't miss the first ever Country 500, the Great American Music Fest at Daytona International Speedway, Memorial Day weekend. Join Luke Bryan, Jason Aldean, Kid Rock, Lady Antebellum, Florida Georgia Line, Willie Nelson, and many more for 3 awesome days and nights of music, camping, and more on the infield of the World Center of Racing. Visit country500.com for more information.
I'm Daniel Hemric, and you're listening to MRN Motorsports Monday with my man, Joey Meyer and Woody Kane.
Someone came up to me in Victory and put it best. This is the first race NASCAR has ran in 4 different climates. It was rain, it was wind, it was a sandstorm, and a cloudy and sunny day at the same time. So, Las Vegas has been a good track for us. When we unloaded in practice, we had a lot of speed, and we were able to keep it up throughout the weekend. And had to tune out a little bit the last practice. We weren't quite where we wanted to be, but the guys really hit on something, and I could really feel that on the long runs our car had so much speed and strength, and we were able to drive up to the front and each one of those runs. And at the end we found ourselves around the 18 who had a lot of short run speed and not a lot of long run speed. He was kind of the antithesis to what we were, and the way the race came together kind of timed out perfectly at the end where we caught each other and were able to race for the lead, and of course persevere with the 2 Miller Lite Ford, and something I'm really happy about.
Brad Keselowski from Victory Lane at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, where he won the race and ninth in the standings right now, but that doesn't matter nearly as much as that victory. The crew chief on the number 2 Miller Lite Ford joins us on the guest line now. Paul Wolfe, welcome back to the program, and I know getting that victory out of the way early has to give you guys a sense of relief in terms of what you've got coming ahead, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, first of all, and yeah, that win at Vegas was was huge. I mean, I think every team's goal is, to win races early in the season, as we know that, gives you that opportunity to know you're locked into the chase, and allows you the opportunity to try some different things and kind of move forward through the summer months and preparing for the chase. And so it was huge to be able to do that again this year. Maybe a little earlier than last, but it was real good.
We're 5 races in, we have a break, and we've had 5 completely different style of tracks. It's easy to look back and evaluate and go, yeah, Vegas was perfect, but I know you better than that. When you look back at the last 5 races, what track do you want to be better at?
Well, I think we want to be better at all of them.
Yeah.
There's different tracks that have different characteristics, and we try to learn, take something from each track as it can help us as the season goes on, obviously. But as we look at Phoenix, we know that race is in the chase, so that's a very important one for us. So we got some information there. Then you look at Vegas, the 1.5 mile style track, which it was good to see we had speed there. Not really, didn't really have exactly what we wanted at Fontana, the 2 mile track there, with a lot of fall off, which is kind of the difference between Vegas and Fontana was, the tire combination and track surface. And that changes a lot of our approach and the setup we put in the car. So it was good to be fast at Vegas, but we need to be better at those tracks that have the high fall off, especially with Goodyear changing the tire this year at a lot of the tracks we'll go to, maybe to a softer combination to get some of that grip back that we lost from the downforce. And a lot of times that softer tire will tend to wear out faster, and understanding the setups for those types of tires is going to be very important.
I know Daytona was a little bit of a different animal, and Martinsville will be as well in terms of this new low downforce package and the softer tire you mentioned. But outside of those tracks, what have we learned here in the first few races about this package? Most people seem to be pretty happy with it, or at least that we're moving in the right direction. What about you?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think it's still a little early to tell. We've gone to Fontana, which I think over the past years has shown to put on good racing, as it did this year. Vegas, has gone both ways in the past. I think some of that depends on, the type of, temperature we get and track temp, and those things sometimes can change, the handling of the cars and what you're able to do. But overall, it seems like the cars have not been disturbed quite as much. You're able to, to get closer to guys and be able to make those passes. I think, a good example of that was if you looked at the Vegas race, when the 18 got the lead there late in that race when us and the 22 were battling, as that run went on, we were still able to race each other at the same time we were catching the leader. And I don't think we've seen that a lot in the past. And so that leader just doesn't seem to have quite the advantage maybe as he did in the past with the higher downforce. So hopefully that trend continues as the season goes on, and we'll see a lot more opportunity there to have a good handling race car, a good mechanical grip race car that can kind of keep up with the aero side of it.
We use the word downforce a lot, and a lot of our listeners, it's just a word that we put in air quotes and we just throw it around like it's free. Give our listeners an idea of when we talk about what we had last year at our maximum versus what we have now, and then your opinion, how low can we actually go on these race cars and still put a competitive race car on the track?
Well, if our aero group's done a good job, we still have just as much downforce this year as we did last year as the teams work really hard to try to get that back. But, with the reduced rear spoiler and, we talk about the smaller splitter and rad pan, I think we were in the range of 600-700 pounds of downforce we've taken off of the car. but to go along with that, we talked about the tire and having Goodyear come up with a combination where, our top speed or fast lap is still very similar because we've traded that, 600-700 pounds of downforce, what we call aero grip for, basically mechanical grip or tire grip. So you'll see the speeds will be very similar, but we try to get the cars where, when they're in traffic and those things, they're not as sensitive, and you're always going to have that, what the drivers call the aero push or dirty air, but we feel like the more we can reduce the aero grip side of it, that won't be quite as bad. And I don't know where the limit is. Obviously, we're going to continue to work in that direction. I from what most teams have said, they're happy with that, and I think we've seen good racing. So I think NASCAR and the teams just need to continue to work together as we move forward and try to continue down this path as we like what we've seen so far.
Chatting with Paul Wolfe, who's the crew chief on the number 2 Miller Lite Ford with Brad Keselowski. And I'm assuming, Paul, that this won't manifest itself or show up as much at Martinsville as it would some other tracks. Are your notes now completely changed, or what are you expecting when you head back with this package to Martinsville for the first time?
Well, I think you're exactly right, Woody. We're not going to probably see the effects of the downforce changes at Martinsville. I mean, that's the one thing, as we've changed aero packages over the last few years, we've done it a few times here now, and it seems like Martinsville's always Martinsville, and you work on the same things every time you go there, and that's really, for one, managing your brakes and keeping your brakes on the car for that 500 laps so you have something to race with at the end. And 2 is keeping, the rear tires on the car. The drive off is huge. So we haven't really seen the aero side of that affect us a whole lot. Probably the biggest change maybe was 2 years ago when we went to the no ride height rule. I think that made us work in different directions and had us, working on different setups. But the aero side of it hasn't really shown a big effect. And then a lot of times, we talk about the tires and what Goodyear's done there. I tell people this a lot, that, a tire change, a different tire code, compound, construction, those types of changes can affect our setups more than or as much as any aero change or maybe engine change. So the tire is a big factor in all this. And that's one thing that has stayed the same as we go back to Martinsville this year. So with that being said, we had probably our best year at Martinsville since I've been on the Cup side in 2015, with really a car capable of winning both races last year. Obviously, we weren't able to get it done, but I feel like we can definitely build off from those notes from last year and try to tune on it from there. I think our big challenge going into this weekend is trying to be better in qualifying. I mean, that's an area where we've been okay, but not where we want to be, and it's so important when it comes to pit selection. Obviously starting up front's important too. It's a long race. I think if you can stay out of trouble, that's not as big of effect as how pit road can have a outcome on the race. So trying to get that good pit stall. Obviously, one is quite an advantage at Martinsville, but there's still other stalls that are better than others, and that's very important to us as we look into qualifying.
Yeah, it's interesting. 12th and 11th for a qualifying effort doesn't seem all that bad, but at Martinsville, it's really hard to pass. One of the things that we hear a lot about the new downforce package is, yeah, the racing was okay, the finishes were fantastic, but really the race itself was kind of boring, and we were talking about having to set the entire race up for the end of the race. And one of our callers was asking, what do you guys do in the pit box during the race? We talk about strategies, another one of those words thrown away. Give an idea of what goes on during the race so that you set yourself up towards the end.
Well, yeah, it's a long a long process there to take all the information. We look back at history and those types of things, and then you just kind of watch to see how the race is playing out, understanding how many laps we can run on a full load of fuel, and then kind of looking at tire wear. And as you said, at some tracks we've seen different tire changes this year with having more wear or things like that. So you try to understand, are we pitting off of fuel, or are we going to pit off from tires because of handling? And as we look at all those things and see how the race is playing out, then it's understanding when the caution falls. Okay, are we gonna keep the track position? Is that going to be important to us, or are we at a place where the tires are worth so much that we're going to pit? And as I look at Martinsville, it seems fairly simple from a strategy standpoint, knowing that usually the tire wear is very high, especially the left rear tire. And that's where we talk about fall off and lose a lot of speed and being able to manage that left rear tire. So it almost seems a no-brainer that every time we see the caution, we're going to come to pit road. And I think for the most part that's true, but over the last couple of years, NASCAR has mandated the amount of tires we can use for the race. And, we see that as well in the Xfinity series where, they're very limited on tires and how that changes the strategy. But at places where, tire wear is very high, Martinsville being one of those, you have to manage those tires as well. So we're trying to calculate, how many laps do we need to run on each set of tires on average roughly to make sure when it comes down to the end to a late race restart or something, we have new tires if we need them. And I think Martinsville can fall into that category. And you'll see this weekend as well as you have in the past that there'll be times where you'll see some guys stay out and some guys pit, and that's just all because of how they want to manage their tires or how many sets they think they need to make it to the end of the race. And you'll see comers and goers, as we say, as you get deep into run, those guys that have stayed out, they just have no tire left, and you'll really, we've seen guys that have been top 5 cars that have stayed out to keep a set of tires, but through that run, if it goes a full green run, they could be a lap down, and we've seen that happen. So it's very important to try to understand your tire and manage those as the race goes on.
That's Paul Wolfe. He's the crew chief on the number 2 Miller Lite Ford at Team Penske. They already have a win, one of 4 teams that have a win in the early part of the season. Paul, as always, man, just fantastic information, and we really appreciate your time.
No, absolutely, anytime.
Thank you, Paul.
There you go. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. How about the thing there he's talking about? You assume just looking at the cars that you would get some punishment on the right rear of the car, but he keeps talking about that left rear from your drive off.
Yeah, you're trying to keep that car. We always talk about keeping the car under you, and by keeping the left rear tire working, you're keeping that car under you. From a driver's standpoint, the closest tire to him is almost that left rear tire.
Yeah.
So they're not just sitting on the pit box watching the race, is what I gather.
Right. No, he's got a lot going on. And
see, Days of Thunder, they were eating ice cream.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that goes on anymore.
Oh.
At least not much anymore.
Oh, I didn't
At least
know.
not the teams that are winning and running up front.
I
anyway.
didn't know that.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. See, he laid some more knowledge on us. You can play along as well, folks. We've still got on track, off track to come. We'll preview more about coming up Martinsville this weekend. You can play along with us on Twitter at MRN Radio. Just use the hashtag AskMRN. Mine is WY Kane. His is at 2Spotter, the number 2Spotter, or our fan forum hotline anytime. That is 844-4AskMRN. That's 844-427-5676. Questions, comments, anything you'd like, those are available to you 24/7. Quick time out here on Motorsports Monday. On track, off track is next.
This is MRN Motorsports Monday.
Ready to take the training wheels off your race scanner? Go to fanvision.com and upgrade your experience with FanVision. Not only will you be able to hear the race,
Dale Earnhardt Jr. gets a good run, drafting help from Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick. Jr. again pulls up alongside for the race lead.
you'll see every moment through live video, instant replays, live stats, and more.
Hi, I'm Jamie McMurray, driver of the #1 Cessna Chevrolet, and I never go to the track without my FanVision. So go to fanvision.com to rent or buy yours today.
Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires will get you there, whether you're running on dirt or running a job. Our dependable, high-quality tires are the perfect fit for your needs. For unmatched value, selection, and warranty with industry-leading road hazard protection, there's only one choice: Hercules Tires. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com or call 800-677-9535. Hercules Tires, ride on our strength.
Need to sell your used vocational and highway equipment, regardless of type and condition? Then Housby is your single source to manage all aspects of the sales process. We can sell your equipment immediately during one of our twice-monthly auctions, either from where it sits or from one of our nationwide sales locations. You make the choice. Housby has buyers who are looking for what you have to sell, and we'll pay you 10 days after the sale, period. Nothing to sell but looking to buy? Check out what we have today at housby.com.
Hi, this is Jimmy Johnson, and you're listening to MRN Motorsports Monday with Joey Meyer and Woody Cannon.
The most recent winner, Jimmy Johnson from Auto Club Speedway there, welcoming us back to Motorsports Monday. If you like the conversation we just had with Paul Wolfe, soaking up some crew chief knowledge, you can get some more of that on NASCAR Live. The show airs at 7 p.m. every Tuesday night, but Chad Knaus is going to be the guest on tomorrow night's show. You can call in a little bit early. Chad's schedule means we're going to record the interview with him a little bit early, but he will be taking your calls. That's 3:30 Eastern Time, NASCAR Live on Tuesday. You can talk live with Chad Knaus. The number 800-262-7227. NASCAR Live, 3:30 the interview time. The show will air at 7 o'clock Eastern Time every Tuesday night, but wanted to make sure you fans who like to soak up some crew chief knowledge could have an opportunity to do that. Speaking of knowledge, it's time for On Track, Off Track. That's where we talk about some things we believe are going right in the sport and some things that maybe aren't going quite so well. Since we didn't have a race this past weekend, let's start with a little bit of on-track action. What do you think is going well maybe through the first 5 weeks of the season so far?
Well, we just heard Paul Wolfe talk about how much work goes on with tires. One of the things we have not heard about this year for the first 5 races is Goodyear tires. The reason we haven't heard about them, they're doing a great job. We've seen some random tire failures that were simply induced by the team setups or the aggressiveness of the drivers in all 3 series, whether it was the Xfinity, the Truck, or the Sprint Cup. We've had tire failures, but they weren't tire-specific failures. They were simply aggressive crew setups and
it wasn't
drivers.
Because something was wrong with the tire.
Right.
Yeah.
The reason we haven't heard anything about Goodyear is they've done an amazing job. These are completely new tires for completely different setups at tracks that are exceeding 2010 into the corner at California. Because of the big speedometer that goes in the corner, we see speeds reading 210 plus miles an hour on a tire that we haven't run before that Goodyear is manufacturing specifically for 2016. Kudos to them. Keep it up in Ohio. You guys are doing a great job.
Yeah, good work that they're doing interaction with the teams and the drivers. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Let's try this. Let's try that when we go to tests to make sure that they've got the best product that they can have every week when they get to the track. For me, on track, this might seem like a negative, but I promise it's not. Penalties. We saw in the past week, Kyle Busch got a $10,000 penalty, or a fine, I guess you should say, since they didn't take any points away, not for criticizing officials, as many thought he might get, for not throwing a caution in the Xfinity race, but for not fulfilling his media obligations after the race. He walked away and didn't go to the media center, didn't talk to any media, got a $10,000 fine there. And people ask, well, Kevin Harvick did the same thing. Why did he not get a penalty? He had, for lack of a better phrase, a note, an excuse, like when your mom writes you a note to school from NASCAR to say he didn't have to go. Since then, NASCAR has clarified that policy and said they won't be issuing those passes anymore, but Kyle Busch gets a $10,000 penalty for not facing the media after that race. Also, Danica Patrick gets a $20,000 penalty for walking out on near the track, not on the track, but near the track after her incident with Casey Kane at Auto Club Speedway. And, of course, Joey, this all grew out of the situation between Tony Stewart and Kevin Ward Jr., the tragedy that was a non-NASCAR event in which Ward approached the track. He was struck by Tony Stewart's car and died, and Tony said he didn't see him until the last minute. That's all neither here nor there. The NASCAR part of it is they didn't want to have anybody getting close to those situations, and this is certainly a safety issue. They could have issued a penalty for points, but since this was the first offense that she was busted for, they gave her a $20,000 fine and 4 weeks probation. I think it's good that they're enforcing that policy, if nothing else.
Well, it's simply that they have policies in place and they're standing behind them. They're not going, well, she had a reason. They're not wishy-washy.
That's not good enough.
No, we've seen the policies. We've seen the behavioral policies put in effect, not showing up. So there's a standard that NASCAR has set, and they're simply going by it. And that's what we as competitors, as fans, as viewers, we like to see. Establish your standard, establish your penalty, then when somebody breaks it, fine them, penalize them for it. The restart was a good one. We saw them put a line in place, put a camera.
After they asked for it and asked for it, and then they got it. Yeah.
Pop quiz. Who was the first person to get black flag? There you go.
Yeah.
Brad Keselowski, because he simply broke the rule. So we want a standard. We want them to police the standard and then see the penalty put in force when that standard is broke.
Yeah, I'd much rather be talking about this than a driver getting injured. So
Yep.
I think it's good for them to be able to do that.
That's it.
Okay, off track. What about for you? Nobody really made you mad this past weekend, did they?
Nobody really made me mad, but I'm really confused, and I actually tweeted about it and had a great conversation with Nate Ryan, which I still don't agree with, but I have my own show to be able to talk about what upsets me. After a race is over, baseball, NBA, basketball, we don't hear about TV ratings.
Oh, they do.
There
They do
are
some.
some. Whenever it's an advantage for the Super Bowl or the NFL to brag about a TV rating, we hear about it. We don't simply drive it into the ground about what our TV ratings are every week. As a viewer, I'm sitting at home watching TV. I don't care if anybody else is. If I'm sitting at home and I'm not watching the race, I don't care if anybody else isn't. The Nielsen broadcast system, you can get on Wikipedia or any internet search engine you feel like choosing and reading about it. It's really an archaic system when they've chosen Nielsen boxes to be sitting at home, and that's how they come up with the Nielsen ratings. You have a box at home, and it keeps track of what you're watching on TV. Well, if I give all of the Nielsen boxes to NASCAR fans, I'm going to tell you that my Nielsen ratings are going to go up.
Yeah.
They've tried to pick a generalization of fans. It's just an archaic system that from the general fan standpoint really has no value.
I think it may from a standpoint of if you're a TV network who's paid all the
100.
money
Yep.
for that and you want to get your return.
Sure.
If the ratings are higher, then you can get your return.
Absolutely.
It makes the sport healthier if there's more of a buzz with it. But I agree, by and large, the ratings from a perspective of whether I'm there or not or whether I'm watching or not, I'm like you. I don't care if somebody else is or not, but overall health, I think, is what they're trying to get at. However, as you and I have talked about before, the difference is you're often comparing apples and oranges or apples and baseball bats,
Right.
because the race may not fall in the same week. It might have different competition. It might be on a different network this time than it was the time before, and it's much harder to compare.
Right. We've looked at the Fox Sports 1, the FS1s, and the old ESPN's 2s as doing a new station. Those people are ecstatic on the numbers you're getting in from a race.
Because they're trying to get you to get that network.
Correct.
In
But
your
then,
cable system.
but in the big scheme of things, the numbers might be down. I understand the numbers need to be available in a box score. If I, as a sponsor, want to be able to find what the viewership is, I should be able to. I agree with that. But from the general fan, we really have no useful purpose to find out. Because A, if I'm watching it, I'm watching it. And B, if I'm not watching it, I'm not watching it. There's no in between. That information, it can be a negative information to where it really has no useful purpose.
Yeah, I think it can be absolutely apples and oranges. All right, my off track is a little bit different. Something we talked with Daniel Hemric about a little bit ago. He is, by the way, going to be back in action, as will the rest of the Camping World Truck Series this coming Saturday at Martinsville Speedway. But the truck schedule, they start off the season at Daytona February 19th. They've tweaked it a little bit now to add that Atlanta doubleheader, which is really cool with the Xfinity Series. So a week later, they're right back in action. But then you've got over a month before we get back to this race coming up April 2nd at Martinsville. After this race, over a month again before we get back to action in Kansas. I realize it's difficult as you see the schedule there with only 23 races, but maybe some of the weeks later in the season when we've got 2, 3, 4 in a row or whatever the number turns out to be, you can move one of those to the early part of the season so it's not such long breaks at the beginning of the year. I give them credit for adding Atlanta and trying to make that gap a little bit shorter, but I wish there was a little bit more that could be done to even that schedule out a little bit and make it not such huge gaps, because we were just talking about the TV ratings. Out of sight is out of mind. If you're not racing for 4 weeks, people have a tendency to forget about you in the way today's society is.
It used to be worse, and that's the interesting thing.
Right. It's a little better now.
We used to race in January. It was the first race of the NASCAR season. We raced Orlando in the trucks.
Yeah.
And then you didn't see them because they didn't race Daytona at the time. They would take 6-7 weeks off. It was very, very unusual. They tried to hype the season up by having a truck race in Florida, in Orlando in January, and it really never paid off.
Yeah, absolutely. If you've got an opinion on any of these topics, on track, off track, something you'd like to see us address, reach out to us on Twitter at MRN Radio. Use that hashtag AskMRN. Mine is at WY Kane. His is at 2 2Spotter for Joey, and use that hashtag so we can find your tweet, or the Fan Forum hotline, 844-4ASK-MRN, 844-427-5676.
Quick review on the schedule the Truck Series used to have.
Yeah.
Disney, Orlando, Tucson, Homestead, Phoenix, Portland.
Wow. You want to talk about a Western swing now. That's more than a swing right there.
But that was the first 5 races of
Yeah.
Truck Series back in the late 90s that we used to do. We'd cross the country 3 times before race number 5.
A completely different
Yes,
animal for
yes.
sure. All right, one more quick break here on Motorsports Monday. We'll come back, look ahead to Martinsville. It's STP week for the STP 500. We'll talk more about it after this.
This is MRN Motorsports Monday.
In the Outback, we think the best part about racing is the noise, the engine, the pits, and a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. Especially a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. That's because if Kevin Happy Harvick, driver of the number 4 Chevrolet, places in the top 10 in today's race, there's free bloomin' onions this Monday. So you'll have a happy bloomin' Monday. Only at Outback Steakhouse. Valid with any purchase. 1 per table. Participation may vary. Registered trademarks used with permission.
Be the winner of your next family dinner. Choose Creekstone Farms Premium Black Angus Beef, proud sponsor of MRN. Act fast, because while supplies last, you can get 2 delicious beef brisket flats for just $79.99. That's a savings of almost $30. Plus, receive free shipping with your online order of $100 or more. No coupon code required. Get first place taste with our superior quality beef and pork products, all raised and grazed in the USA. Visit us today at creekstonefarms.com.
I'm Steve Letarte for STP. As a former crew chief, I know about winning and what it takes to keep your engine performing at its best. That's why I recommend STP Ultra 5-in-1 Fuel System Cleaner. STP Ultra 5-in-1 Fuel System Cleaner is STP's most advanced fuel additive. It's been formulated to help remove harmful deposits from intake valves and restore fuel injector performance. For more than 60 years, STP products have proven themselves mile after mile. Take it from me, if you want to go with the winner, go with STP. In for the long haul.
I'm Eric Jones, and you're listening to MRN Motorsports Monday with Joey Meyer and Woody Kane.
Getting back to Motorsports Monday, we're headed to STP 500 at Martinsville Speedway on Sunday. Don't forget Ultra Clean, Ultra Performance, Ultra Protection, STP Ultra 5-in-1 Fuel System Cleaner, their most advanced formula, STP. In for the long haul. It's STP week here on Motor Racing Network. You can hear all the previews leading up to the race this coming weekend. A lot going on there as well. And we'd like to thank Outback Steakhouse as well, our other big sponsor here on Motorsports Monday. Got to check out the lunch combos they have starting at $6.99. Endless soup and salad.
And the Joey menu.
The Joey menu, which is really for kids, but they'll let you participate.
They named it after me.
I'm not sure that's the case. I don't think so at all.
All right.
Anyway,
All right.
Martinsville coming up this weekend. Interesting
Wow.
to hear Paul Wolfe talking about how the tire will be the same, the one we've had in the past few years. The car configuration, of course, is different, but he thinks that won't show up quite as much. What are you expecting from Martinsville?
A lot of beating and banging. The truck race, in my opinion, is one of the sloppiest races we go to all year. And what I mean by that is there's more carnage in that truck race than we have the entire rest of every race of the truck race, and they go there twice a year. So you take those 2 races and you add up all the carnage and bent sheet metal and look at the rest of the year, there's a lot of stuff tore up in the truck race. Martinsville is a lot of long runs. There's a lot of unique pit strategies because it is so difficult to get by, but cars that are good can simply pass. We've seen that in previous races. Drive off of every corner, turn in the center. That's all guys are going to be asking for. I want more, turn in the center, but don't hurt my drive off. And that's what Paul and those guys have their work cut out
He's scratching
for.
his head then
That's
going,
exactly
wait, what?
right.
One doesn't follow the other.
No, exactly right. You're asking. I heard one of the greatest comments 2 weeks ago in California that I ever heard. Greg Biffle, talking to his crew chief, Brian Patty, said, I don't know what I need, but I need more of it.
What do you do with that as a crew chief?
And then so as listening to other drivers on the radio, that's some of the stuff these crew chiefs have to deal with because they're trying to make their driver happy. But when a driver says, I don't know what I need, but whatever it is, I need more of it.
More of that. Give me some of that.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't want to get out of here before we mention a good welcome back to one of your colleagues who'll be back on the roof this week. Chris Osborne is coming back.
Chris Osborne, 100%. Can't wait to see him in a devastating car wreck with him and his wife and kid just before the Christmas break. Severe injuries to all 3. Thankfully, the good Lord was looking upon them. They're all recovering, still going through rehab. Chris will be making his return back up on the roof to spot for Matt Kenseth and one of the trucks from KBM, I believe.
Yeah, I think he's also going to have like an air cast on the whole time too, right?
Yes.
But at least he's back in business.
Yeah, all 3 of their family members are up. It was a big deal for his wife to be able to walk again.
Mm-hmm.
He's been approved to put 100% of his weight back on his leg, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So all 3 of those family members are, again, doing really good after catastrophic injuries that suffered in the end of December.
Yeah, and also we want to make sure that we mention folks can follow him on Twitter. It's what, @CrazySpotter?
@CrazySpotter.
Yeah.
It's easy to find. Chris Osborne, if you search Twitter, will pull up @CrazySpotter. Small story behind Crazy that I'll let him tell you on Twitter on how he got his nickname, but been in the sport for over 20 years. Actually used to drive the haulers. Still does on occasion. Will drive a hauler back as a second driver from the West Coast.
Maybe he'll take a break from that for a while now until his leg gets
Yep.
healed up. Don't forget, folks, on NASCAR Live, Chad Knaus will be the guest. They'll record the interview a little bit early, but you can still get your question in. That's going to be at 3:30 Eastern Time, Tuesday. 800-2NASCAR is the number, 800-262-7227. Folks, stick with us here on Motor Racing Network all week. We've got the truck race on Saturday, the STP 500 on Sunday. All the shows all week long will be talking about it. Make sure you stick with Motor Racing Network all week long to keep up to speed on what's happening at the track. I'm Woody. He's Joey. We'll see you right back here next
You've
Monday.
been listening to MRN Motorsports Monday, presented by Outback Steakhouse and Hercules Tires. Tune in again next Monday at noon for all the latest news, results, and interviews from NASCAR on MotorRacingNetwork.com. MRN Motorsports Monday is also available on demand at the MotorRacingNetwork.com Media Center or download it from iTunes or Stitcher. MRN Motorsports Monday is a production of the Motor Racing Network. All rights reserved.